Angeba Sojola here. Now, within about an hour or two after the Al Aqsa flood attack by Hamas, the Israel Defense Force started airstrike campaign on Gaza, right? Which basically targeted a number of things. Number one, it targeted military installations and places where rockets were being launched and places where it was believed that Hamas was hiding weapons, right? This air campaign was coupled with the cutting of the water supplies and the electricity supplies to Gaza by Israel, right? Now, there has been reports on the news that actually allege that the Israeli Defense Force in their air campaigns, right, used white phosphorus bombs, right, in Gaza. But we still need to wait for that to be actually confirmed through investigations and everything that until they eventually the war builds up. So we need to wait for more information to come out of there. So there are claims that the Israeli Defense Force uses white phosphorus as part of the terror campaign which they are conducting in Gaza, right? Between the 12th and the 15th of October 2023, right, the US decided to send two aircraft carriers or two warships towards the eastern parts of the Mediterranean as a way to support the airstrike campaign that Israel was conducting in Gaza, right? Now, this support and this air campaign resulted in a hospital in Gaza being blown up, where about 500 Palestinians were killed, with many more injured, right? Now, after the bombing of this hospital in Gaza, this solicited a number of responses throughout the Middle Eastern region. For example, the first people to respond to this hospital attack, I would say, was the Houthi rebels that are based in Yemen, right? The Houthi rebels, which are backed by Iran, decided to send about a few rockets towards the direction of Israel. It is believed that these rockets were basically intercepted by the US military across the Red Sea, right? Basically intercepting the rockets before they eventually reached Israel. Now, during the airstrikes that Israel conducted, right, they also decide to conduct airstrikes on Syria, right? Specifically, Iran military installations which are based in Syria, right? So the Israel Defense Force conducted airstrikes, right, in Syria and in Gaza, right, trying to destroy the military installations of Iran-backed rebels or Iran-backed militia groups. In Syria, they had struck an airport in Aleppo, which had a few Iran-based military installations, and they had struck Damascus, right? But the Iran-backed government in Syria, right, basically also responded using missiles and drone hitting US military bases in Syria, right, and also hitting US military bases in Iraq, right? So from the inception of the war, there was already a number of regional players which has been involved in the response of the Israeli air campaign that they are conducted over Gaza, Syria, and a few other places. Now, the hospital strike in Gaza by the air forces of the Israeli Defense Forces really pulled in a lot of players around the region. Now, the most prominent or the most eminent threat to Israel, right, is Hezbollah, which is based in Lebanon. Now, Hezbollah is a more organized army, right, which is Iranian backed, right, than Hamas, right? So they also started shooting rockets and missiles towards Israel and warning them that uh, if there is an escalation, right, for example, on the ground offensive that they want to do, right, there will be an escalation in attacks from all the players in the region, right? So you have Israel surrounded by Arab nations, right, and basically being checked mate. Now, the US is starting to attack Iranian military installations in Iran, in Iraq, in Syria, and in Lebanon. You can also add slightly Yemen to that, right? So slowly but surely, the US is being dragged into another regional war in the Middle East, right? Where the supporters of Israel, right, which is the US, need to come in and support Israel, right? So it means the US now is going to be caught up in two regional wars, one based in Europe in the form of the Ukraine-Russian war, right? We know that they are sending in military supplies and aid in that war. And now this is a new front where the US might be caught up in another forever war, right? In basically fighting Iran. So, what I believe is that the slight escalation of Iranian military installations being shot down by the US and Israel, right, will eventually pull the US into the Middle East, into having a war with Iran, right? Because Iran supports a number of groups, right, around the region. Hezbollah, Hamas, the government in Syria, right? There are Houthi rebels in Yemen, right? There are people who understand Iran in Egypt. So if this escalates, the US will be pulled into a war with Iran in the Middle East. And I believe eventually Iran will destroy Israel, right? And Palestinians will eventually receive their land, right? I doubt that the US is going to win a war against Iran, right? Now, for a number of reasons, we'll basically look at what are those reasons in the future coming videos. Thank you for the opportunity. I'll see you in the next video.